Big business.
Today I want to talk about a monster industry. I'm calling it a monster not because it's negative or scary in any way, but because when compared to other industries in terms of size, it's gigantic. In fact, it's one of the biggest. It's the automotive or the car industry. Some would say this business is an essential part of the world economy, since it makes more money than many other industries. For such a huge industry with such value, its exact beginnings are a bit uncertain. Some credit Carl Benz in Germany in 1885 when he basically created a unique carriage, one that didn't use horses. Benz, Daimler, and Maybach created a vehicle just 3 years later, but theirs was more a traditional automobile and less a carriage. Anyway, the history lesson is for another time. Today, let's focus on how the different parts of the car industry differ, by country production and by manufacturer. I mentioned that the industry is monstrous. In part, this is because of its influence on the world economy. But we must also consider the impact of the automobile on the way we live. Once, only the richest people could afford cars, but now they are much more affordable and people of all ages drive. It's a market worth having a share of, with more than 800 million cars on the roads around the world. They consume more than 250 billion gallons of fuel a year. That equates to a lot of money. Although demand is worldwide, some believe that 4 markets will eventually dominate world demand: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Let's look at production figures. Which country produces the most vehicles?
Is it the United States?
It's very high on the list, but not number 1.
Iran?
Another good guess. Iran has the potential to be a dominant force in the automotive industrial market. We'll have to wait and see.
Somewhere in East Asia? Japan?
Close.
Oh, it's China, right?
That's right. Japan is also a big producer, but it is currently at number 3. It's very close, though. The USA has recently overtaken Japan to reach the number 2 spot. Germany and South Korea round out the top 5. Both countries export a lot of cars, but also are home to companies that have lots of factories abroad. Other countries like Brazil and India, Spain, Mexico, and France are fairly close in number. All those countries produced about the same number of cars. The range was between 2 million and 4 million cars in 2011. Someone mentioned Iran. It was 13th on the list, but it's bound to climb higher. Now, let's talk a little about manufacturers. Remember, I mentioned that the automotive industry as a whole is a monster. Some would argue that each manufacturer is a monster in terms of size and money as well. The OICA, that is, the International Organization of Motor Vehicle Manufacturers, has a lot of data that helps us compare and contrast the different manufacturers. Which company do you think is number 1?
China is number 1 in production, right? So is it a Chinese company?
Actually, no, it's not.
Japan was number 3, but is a Japanese company first?
Yes, Toyota. Asian companies do well, holding a good deal of the top production places, but the second-place manufacturer is General Motors in the United States. Volkswagen from Germany follows next, then Hyundai in South Korea, and then in 5th place, Ford, again in the United States. With production so high and values growing, you can see how large these companies can get. Monstrous, yes. But bad? No, not really. Not considering how many people want and need cars.